Today, we're in New York, the Empire State. What can I say about New York City that hasn't already been said? Songs, movies, sonnets have been written trying to define the magic that's New York City. And it is magic. I've spent most of my adult life going to school, working, dreaming, loving, and living in New York City. And as Carrie Bradshaw once said, if you only get one great love, New York might be mine. I can't get any more poetic than that. Let's just run the numbers. 5 boroughs, 41 Broadway theaters, 110 universities, 207 libraries, 1,700 parks, 24,000 restaurants, a median household income of $64,000, median property value of $645,000, 2 million rats, 8.4 million people, hopes, dreams, and hustle, infinite. While New York City is not the capital of New York State, Albany is. It was the first capital of the United States of America, and it's known as the capital of the world. Okay, a bit cocky, but really, what's more New York than that? While the roughly 60 million tourists that visit the city annually usually end their trip there, they're missing out. New York State has so much more to offer. My first stop was Long Island. In my mind, the honorary 6th borough. Home with the Hamptons, people who spend way too much time commuting back and forth to the city, and some surprisingly beautiful beaches. By the way, when hopping from beach to beach, if it's available, the ferry's a really fun way to get around. Speaking of New York City commuters, the ones that aren't heading to Long Island, New Jersey, or Connecticut are heading to upstate New York. The region encompasses several towns, each with varying amounts of charm and economies of various strengths. Beacon, Poughkeepsie, Cold Spring, Woodstock, Kingston, Catskills, and Hudson, just to name a few. Upstate is a beautiful, if recently struggling region, with hiking and views everywhere you go. Views so charming they inspired an entire art movement in the 19th century called the Hudson River School. If you've ever seen a painting by Thomas Cole, you've seen a realistic, if slightly idealized, look at life upstate. Next, I headed west to Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls State Park consists of 3 different waterfalls: the American, Bridal Veil, and the Horseshoe Falls. Established in 1885, Niagara is America's oldest state park. And while it's not that tall, it makes up for its lack of height and sheer volume. Over 700,000 gallons of water goes over the falls at 25 miles an hour every second. Now, it would never occur to me that going over as well would be a good idea, but the first American to go over the falls, contrary to every stereotype of what a daredevil looks like, was a 63-year-old school teacher named Annie Edson Taylor in 1901. She made it, but plenty of others after her didn't. So let's just appreciate the falls from the viewing platform. Full disclosure, I'm not really a baseball fan. I'm a Yankees fan. And even more than the Yankees, I'm a fan of sitting outside on a summer day, in the shady seats, drinking a beer, cheering for your team and chatting. That's baseball to me. And in honor of that most American of pastimes, I headed to Cooperstown and the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Baseball was allegedly created in Cooperstown by Abner Doubleday, future Civil War hero. Now, if you're English and you know about rounders and cricket, don't get your knickers in a twist. We know it's probably not true, But there's nothing more American than a feel-good origin story. Let us have it. Oh, the wine. The delicious wine. Wine tastings are, if you need it, a classy way to get tipsy in the middle of the day. And with 120 wineries in the Finger Lakes region, that's a lot of tasting to be done. But it's good to have a goal, right? And of course, a designated driver. There are also the charming lakes themselves and the stunning landscapes. But let's be honest, we're here for the wine. This place is huge. At almost 6 million acres, the Adirondacks are the size of Yellowstone National Park, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, Glacier National Park, and the Great Smoky Mountains combined. There are many lakes in the Adirondacks, but the one we've all heard of is Lake Placid. With a current sleepy population of 2,300, it's hard to imagine that the Olympic Games were held here twice, most recently in 1980. The Olympics when we all learned to believe in miracles. Specifically, the iconic Miracle on Ice, when the 7th-seeded American hockey team, made up of scrappy amateur players with an average age of 22, upset the professional 4-time gold medal winning team from the Soviet Union, the defending champions. The Soviets had not lost an Olympic hockey game since 1968, and they had just embarrassed the Americans in an exhibition game, winning 10-3. But the Americans must not have known that they were supposed to lose, and they did. 1980 was a tough time for America. It was the 102nd day of the Iran hostage crisis. Americans were coming off a decade of Nixon, rising gas prices, and a stagnant economy. This wasn't just a hockey game, it was a Cold War skirmish. It was democracy versus communism, and democracy won. New York State, this was just the first chapter. There's 49 more to go. I hope you join me. See you next week.